Hey folks, this is Sam from Vim. Our Vim Flex application lets you customize it using AI. And so today I'm going to show you how to install Claude and how to connect it with Vim Flex so you can make your own workflows and change the ones that we created for you. So let's get started. First thing we're going to need to do is get a subscription to Claude or Codex from OpenAI or any kind of AI that supports an MCP. So if you download Claude, you're going to need to have the desktop app. And same thing if you download ChatGPT's Codex, you're going to need to have the desktop app instead of using the web to interface with the plugin. So when you open VIM Flex, you're going to need to have a license to get started with the MCP. And MCP is basically a perfect way for the AI and the software to connect to each other. So turning on an MCP allows a really native connection, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. So once you have your license activated in VIM Flex, you're going to click the little robot here and notice how it's white right now because it's not turned on. And you're going to check all of these three checkboxes here and select Start MCP Server. So this is going to start the MCP server automatically whenever you open the application. And here you can click the Open Claude Desktop Configuration file, and it should bring you to the right place. However, we've noticed that on some French computers, it doesn't actually bring you to this file here. So what you really want to do is you want to open this as a text file. And for you, it'll probably be empty. So you can just copy paste what was in here into your text file. If there's a bunch of other stuff, what you can do is copy paste what's in there, copy paste this, ask Claude to make a composite of the JSON file for you. I'm not going to show you my actual file because it contains a bunch of API keys. Now, if pressing this button doesn't actually bring you to the right location, I'll show you how to do it from Claude Desktop. So you're going to click on your name here and go into Settings. And once you're into Settings, you're going to click Developer. And right here, you're going to click Edit Configuration. And this will bring you to the proper location. So if this button doesn't bring you there, you'll have to go through Claude Code and to the developer options to open the folder. This is only something that you need to do once. And basically what it does is every time Claude Code opens, it's going to see if the server is on, and if it's on, it's going to connect to it for that entire session. Okay, so I said when it opens, so what that means is we have to close Claude Code right here. We're going to go exit. The other way you can do it is by right-clicking down here into Claude Code and clicking Quit. If you just turn off Claude Code here, it's not actually going to close it, so you do need to turn it off appropriately. Okay, now I'm just going to turn it right back on. And if we click the little plus here, we should see that VIM Flex is on. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping on how to use Claude Code. First off, you don't want to be using chat or Cowork at all. I mean, not for this real work, right? And there's a big difference between chat and code. Chat, we have this kind of habit of starting a chat, throwing it away, starting another chat, throwing it away, starting another chat, throwing it away. In Claude Code, it's a completely different philosophy. If you look here, for example, I have my product manager. So it's more like jobs, right? Now, I do a lot of specialized workflows. So I will start a single conversation for those workflows. For example, carbon detection. I want to have somebody whose job is carbon detection. They need to know everything about carbon. They need to know about the other software that does carbon. They need to know about the industry from a carbon point of view. So I'm always going to go there for the carbon detection conversations and for it to craft my carbon detection workflows. But if you look here, you're going to have things like a product manager. You know, maybe you have a finance guy. Maybe you have somebody that helps you with sales, or somebody that helps you just write email and understand what's going on in the office. So unlike this philosophy of creating these chats and throwing them away, in Claude Code, you want to say, this is your folder. And in this folder, you have everything that you need to know about finance or customers or workflows. And I'm always going to come to you in this location, and I want you to become an expert. And so you're not going to be throwing away conversations left and right like you do with chat. Now, Cowork, I've seen a lot of people use Cowork. Cowork is for like buying you airplane tickets and I know it says Claude code. We're not I mean, I don't code, right? So we're not actually coding. We're just doing a lot more work with Claude Code, and hopefully you'll figure out why we use it. I mean, even if you just look at the options in here for Claude Code, you're going to have a lot more options. You're going to have a lot more power. There's a lot of more things unlocked in here. Okay, so you're starting your first conversation. What you need to do is point to a folder. And so if you're doing, let's say, an estimation workflow, make a folder where everything related to estimation knowledge is going to be in there, and you give that to Claude Code as your starting folder. A couple of extra things. Let's talk about the model. Do not use Haiku or Sonnet. Use Fable 5 if you can. Use Opus 4.8. Those are the smarter models, right? Haiku is like a dumb intern. Sonnet is like, smart, good worker, just not that smart, not university level necessarily. And Opus obviously is pretty good, and we've had a little touch of Fable, and it was fantastic. Although it burns through tokens, I'd much rather use Fable when it's available, even if it's more expensive. If you have more budget and you're not patient, you can definitely enable fast mode if your admin allows it. It's going to use more tokens, but you'll get answers faster. Now here is the effort, right? So if you are on a cheap plan, you can keep it at extra, max, high, whatever you need. Definitely don't work at low. And if tokens are not a problem, you can put it in ultra code mode. Ultra code means it's going to have a tendency to launch fleets or swarms of agents. So workflows that are more optimized for multi-threading, which is, pretty great if you're doing something complicated. You want to basically have your little army of agents come out there, and sometimes they'll be launching as sonnets, kind of dumber agents, and then they'll all regroup and talk to the smart agent who will give a summary to your main agent as to what's going on. And we'll probably do a different video just focusing on context. Understanding context in Claude Code is extremely important. Okay, so we got a new session in Claude Code. We are connected with VIM Flex. At this point, it's your imagination, your goals. What do you want to do with this, right? The core of VIM Flex is that it brings in all of your BIM data from Revit, Navisworks, or IFC, and you can do whatever you want with that. So it brings in the materials, it brings in all of the parameters, it brings in the phase filters, it brings in everything. Do you want to do a BIM audit? Do you want to do an estimation workflow? Do you want to do a carbon workflow? Do you want to do a scheduling app? You can do what you want. This was really made for developers to do whatever they wanted with it. And then we added the MCP. So now all of a sudden, non-developers like myself can do their own workflows if they have the imagination and the needs to, boss around the AI to do what they want them to do. And real quick, there's 3 things that you can do once you have the connection. You can ask VIM Flex what it has in the model. You can input a lot of information in the model yourself, especially if you already have a workflow like estimation. Like, for example, all of this information in the estimation was entered by Claude Code. So I can go in there and change it, but it gave me its best try right from the beginning. And then the third is that you can create your own workflow, which is exactly what we're going to do right now. All right, so I'm just going to create a little workflow here that analyzes the concrete volume by level, and let's hit go. Now, it's important that the model that you have open actually has the things that you're trying to look at, because Claude is going to see basically a database of the model you have open. I just did a workflow asking for windows and doors, and this model doesn't have windows and doors. So, that's something to consider. And if you have the real data, it's not going to have to make assumptions about where the parameters are, how the model's organized, and so forth. And if you have no windows and doors, it's going to have a bit of a hard time making a report for windows and doors. Also, the first time that you work with Claude Code and you pointed to VIM Flex, it's really like an intern that came out of university and doesn't know anything about anything. So right now it's discovering everything, and it's going to take a bit more time the first time because it's opening the book and it's looking at everything fresh. Now, another thing you'll notice is that it may ask you for permissions a couple of times. If you feel comfortable, I recommend putting it in auto mode. This is Claude, so it's a pretty safe model in terms of letting it go free. But if not, you may have to accept permission quite a couple of times to let it, contact or read files and so forth. All right, so VIM Flex will not allow Claude to create and enable a plugin by itself. So you have to manually enable the plugin when it's ready here just by clicking the button and saying continue. There is also in the workflow page a manage tab where you can turn all of these on and off, but this is a kind of a one-off for the first time. All right, so let's give it a second to load. And VIM Flex can open models and plugins once they're enabled for you. So what I normally do, what it's going to do is going to create the plugin and it's going to compile whenever you ask it for a change. And then that's going to reset it to the front page. But you can ask Claude to open the plugin and the model for you, just like it did right now. Okay, so what do we got? We have, So this took 12 minutes, and now we have a workflow being proposed by Claude. Obviously, this was a single sentence ask. There was not a lot of guidance. What we're going to look at is how to iterate with the plugin. And even more importantly, if you have the time and luxury, go into Claude Design for iteration, where it's going to be a lot more graphical and a lot more thorough and thought through, more than a one sentence plugin. What is it doing here? Oh, it's still working. It's still compiling. Maybe it saw an error actually. Yeah. So it found that the left panel was a bit too cramped. So it's actually looking at things and taking screenshots still. So we're looking at it work really. Which is kind of funny, right? It's co-working with us literally. Okay, so it's not done thinking, it's still working. But I think what you can see is that with a single sentence, once we were connected with a single sentence, we start to see some data, we start to see some action, we start to see some programming based on the requirements. And this is an extremely fast workflow to create your own plugins, to create your own BIM software extremely fast, extremely easily. So in the next videos, I'm going to go over how to develop if you're on a Mac or you want to just use the web capabilities of VIM Flex. We're also going to look at how to use Claude Design to go a lot further with the design and with this new way of working. So I hope you're able to connect your VIM Flex to Claude or Codex or whatever platform you have. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.